Euromaxx highlights. In this edition, Double Trouble, how twins Gisela, Getty and Jutta Winkelmann became counterculture personalities. Clever chair, how to make a very sturdy seat from thin aluminium. Nice digs, how to get a castle home for around €200 a month. Euromaxx highlights, and here's your host, Karen Helmstedt.
Greetings from Berlin and welcome to our Highlights edition. Graham Short is one of the last great engravers in Britain and a man obsessed with work on a miniature scale. He has perfected a technique of etching letters onto tiny surfaces such as the head of a pin or even the thin edge of a razor blade. Well, you can't actually judge his work without the help of a microscope, but it's well worth having a look because this does have to be seen to be believed.
His work cannot be seen with the naked eye. But magnified 400 times, it becomes clear that the British engraver Graham Short can make possible the impossible. He has successfully engraved the words, "Nothing is impossible," on the 1/100th of a millimeter wide edge of a razor blade.
I was absolutely thrilled. When I'd finished it, I couldn't believe it because I'd struggled for so long to do it. And I knew that it was probably the smallest engraving in the world. I can't go any smaller, and I wouldn't think anybody else can.
It took Graham Short 180 tries to get it right, but the effort was worth it, financially as well. A collector paid about €50,000 for the razor blade. Normally, he produces printing plates, fine stationery, envelopes, and business cards in his Birmingham studio. Among his clients, Britain's royal family. Miniature engraving has fascinated him from the beginning. His greatest dream, engraving the entire Lord's Prayer on the head of a pin. It took him 40 years to finally get there.
I know it's been a tradition that all engravers try to engrave the Lord's Prayer on something as small as possible. So that's why we were doing it as apprentices. We were trying to go smaller and smaller.
His messages are varied, from lines of a law on the casing of a bullet to the names of every English football player who ever scored in the World Cup on the studs of a soccer shoe, or a quote by the British author William D. Timaeus on the center point of a pocket watch.
They think I'm an eccentric, I think, but it is an obsession. I understand that. Totally obsessed with it now. Can't stop it.
The 64-year-old has been working in Birmingham's Jewelers Quarter for almost 40 years. Graham Short is one of the last engravers who still does his work all by hand. To stay in condition, he swims between 5,000 and 10,000 meters a day. Many long hours of solitude in his studio have made him accustomed to the loneliness of the long-distance swimmer.
It's usually about 2.5, 3 hours a day I swim. And the more swimming I do, the fitter I am and the lower the resting heart rate. And that's the real reason I do it.
When he's at rest, Graham Short's heart slows to about 30 beats per minute. He tapes a stethoscope to his chest to monitor his heartbeat when he's working, because it's the moment between two beats of his heart when he finds the absolute calm he needs. He works only at night, when there are fewer cars and other distractions outside his studio. Then he straps his arms down with a leather belt so that he can only move his fingers. Today, he's going to engrave an Oscar Wilde quote onto the nib of a pen.
I have to sit and wait and wait and wait until the moment is right. And then I shall try and make a movement while I'm absolutely dead still between my heartbeats. My heartbeat isn't as slow as it should be. I'm in exactly the right position to put a bar on the top of a letter T. Oh, it's seeing the reaction more than anything that I like. I've seen the work in a gallery and people have looked through the microscope and they can read it, but then they look down to see what it's on and they're confused. You can see the look. They're so confused. They think it can't be there. Then they look again. There was one woman in a gallery once who got down on her knees looking up at the lens. She thought there was lettering on the lens of the microscope. So funny. But it's the reaction I like more than anything, because I know I've done something special.
Graham Short often sits until dawn, bent over his work deep in concentration, a craftsman producing tiny works of art.
Well, it was in a spirit of adventure that identical twins Gisela, Getty and Jutta Winkelmann set out to see the world and to meet their idols. That was in the late 1960s, and whilst documenting all of their remarkable encounters with a camera, they eventually became counterculture personalities themselves. Their photo collection is currently on in Hamburg in a show called The Twins, A Visual Journey, so let's see what they learned along the way.
Jutta and Gisela. Identical twins who set out to meet their idols and in the process became famous themselves. They wanted to get to know the people who embodied the ideals of the era, of freedom and self-expression, people like Dennis Hopper. They discussed philosophy with Mick Jagger and partied with Robert De Niro.
They were people who were inventing a new attitude to life. They gave voice to a whole generation.
We weren't interested in famous people. They were all brothers and sisters of a common spirit. We saw each other and we enjoyed seeing each other. We felt ours was a beautiful generation.
Once upon a time, you dressed so fine, threw the bumps of dime in your prime.
The twins knew early on that they were a little bit different. Born in the provincial city of Kassel in the state of Hessen, they developed an interest in the wider world at a young age.
When we were 4, we tried to emigrate to America in a baby carriage without wheels.
We thought the baby carriage was a ship. And we really gave our mother a scare because suddenly we were gone.
Jutta and Gisela are now 61 and live in Munich, though they are often drawn back to Berlin, because that's where their adventures started. They first came to Berlin in the 1970s, became active in politics, lived in a commune, and became icons of the times.
We wanted a different world.
We just felt we're next. Now it's our turn. None of it was a conscious decision. You just felt it. This enthusiastic beginning, the complete unknown. Really, to go into the complete unknown and discover oneself and be playful with life.
Germany quickly became too dull for them. The twins moved to Italy, the land of sunshine and filmmaking, where they soon were being courted by film legends like Federico Fellini and Bernardo Bertolucci.
That was unusual. 2 girls on the road looking for adventure. People were interested in us.
Because we had each other, we were self-sufficient. We were like a little gang. We didn't have to conform because we had each other.
Their lives came to a crossroads in Rome when they met Gisela's future husband, billionaire heir Paul Getty. He was kidnapped in 1973 and only released after a long ordeal and the payment of a ransom.
That was the moment that really changed everything. After that, Rome was finished. In a way, it was also the end of a whole way of life.
The twins' next stop was San Francisco. They became friends with Sean Penn, worked with Dennis Hopper. They're still in touch with Leonard Cohen, and they met, of course, Bob Dylan, their biggest idol.
People saw each other, got together. And Leonard Cohen and Dylan, they sang beautiful songs, or strange songs. They found a voice that was their own. That was a snapshot of a time when there were no hierarchies and when everything was possible.
It's a way of life that Gisela Getty and Jutta Winkelmann still want to represent today.
Can fashion be art? This is the main question currently being explored by a special show at the Museum of Art in Wolfsburg. There you can see experimental works from famous fashion designers and new works by students from a fine arts college in Belgium. And it's all very avant-garde, but is it art and is it even wearable? For us to decide.
Give young designers free rein on the catwalk and they're all too happy to run wild. Here, students from Antwerp's famous Royal Academy of Fine Arts are showing off their latest creations. You might not want to wear them, but that's not the point.
In this collection's wearability is not the topic we are talking about. It's, I mean, if we work with the students, we give them like total freedom. And even for me, wearability is when you can put it on a body, when it can walk and when it can be on a stage, it's already wearable.
52 students are showing a total of 150 outfits. They work on new collections throughout their time at the Academy. It's all about developing an individual style and breaking new creative ground.
I wouldn't say that I define myself as an artist. I wouldn't presume to call this art. Someone's still wearing it. Art is something you look at.
Art would start in my collection with this manual work that I do all my prints myself. So I turn into a painter on fabric, but still it's like full of paint and like spray and everything. So the art would start in this, and the fashion would be with the shapes and the clothing.
At the Museum of Art in Wolfsburg, a new exhibition is exploring the relationship between art and fashion, with more than 40 works from international artists and designers. Some come from people who straddle the two disciplines, like Walter van Beirendonck. As well as teaching future talent, the Belgian designer is also recognized as an artist. The bee is one of his works.
The fashion world is a very specific world, and I think that at the end it's all about making clothes which should be consumed. So it's not about making clothes for art's sake. But on the other hand, I think that a lot of situations where fashion is shown and is used in certain collections, certain designers are coming very closely to this line, this frontier with fashion and art.
Also on show are 3 dresses from the Dutch designer duo Victor and Rolf. They're renowned for their innovative and striking catwalk shows. In one famous show, they sent their models onto the runway decked out with their own spotlights and loudspeakers. The US designer Nick Cave creates elaborate costumes with things he picked up at the flea market. Art or fashion, or both.
Some people say fashion is anything people wear on the street. Others say it's a laboratory where designers look for new ways for people to express themselves through their appearance. Then there's the scope for designers to come up with something that might not qualify as prêt-à-porter, so it's not exactly wearable. But it still provides an interpretation of the body. And that's where you cross the boundary with art.
Experimenting with fashion is a way of charting new artistic territory, something that students at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts are well aware of.
I think that in fact, certain presentations and the way that you put it on a stage can always become like a performance, and then we already get very close to art. So of course we are crossing over boundaries, and that's also what our students and what good designers are trying to do, is like pushing forward boundaries. And that kind of changing that boundaries at the end have their effects on the garment and the fashion industry in general.
Walter van Beirendonck and her students are more than happy to keep weaving their way from fashion to art and back again, with creations that are wearable too, if only for a couple of minutes on the catwalk.
Well, variations on the theme of design, aluminum sheeting is known to be a most useful material, great for things like roofing, soft drink cans, sardine tins and much more. But what about a chair? I, for one, would not have thought it strong enough to hold up, but designer Thaler from Italy likes to take our preconceived notions and bend them, quite literally, into completely different shapes. And the latest one is finding favour.
A chair so light that its inventor can balance it on one finger with ease. The pressed chair, as it's called, weighs in at a slight 2 kilograms, the same as a plastic model.
What makes the chair special is the super light material. It's made of 2.5 millimeter thick aluminum. Plus, there's no wood or other materials and no screws, nothing else. And it can be 100% recycled. That also makes it pretty special.
Thaler created the pressed chair for his graduation work at the Royal College of Art in London. It all started with a blank sheet of paper. He did a quick sketch and cut it out. With just a few folds, he had a little chair in his hand. The next step was to transfer this principle to thin sheet metal, cutting out the appropriate pattern and pressing it into shape. And there it was, Thaler's pressed chair. Development took 8 months. The toughest part was the groove.
The groove is essential for the chair to stand. It's like with a sheet of paper. It has to be folded in order to be stable. Folding it gives it a static structure, as you can see here. The problem was bending the chair. Basically, the groove gives it stiffness and prevents the leg from buckling.
The chair was premiered at this year's IMM Cologne Design Fair. To much acclaim, the best recognition of all was an offer to take it into production. German furniture maker Niels Holger Moormann approached the designer at the fair. The two men came to an agreement. Moormann's products are known across the world. His FNP shelving system enjoys a special place in design history. He's convinced that Thaler's chair will likewise prove a success.
I'm excited about how many aspects of the chair are sound. It's made from a single piece of material. You see it as just a piece of sheet metal, but it's actually one that requires a lot of technical expertise. The chair also has this lightness. It just really got to me.
Thaler now lives and works in London, but his hometown of Merano in northeastern Italy continues to provide inspiration.
London is a big, busy city with a lot of energy. I like coming back home to rejuvenate. I go for walks in the forest and look for inspiration and ways of relaxing.
Thaler also designs entire spaces, like at this residential hotel in Bolzano. It also features a lamp of his, a tribute to the old light bulbs now being phased out in Europe.
When you hang something on a nail in German, it means ending something. I translated it directly by putting a nail through the light bulb.
Thaler used to be a goldsmith, but after 10 years on the job, he wanted to work on a bigger scale. He became a designer and hasn't looked back. Today, he creates innovative furniture. His shelf, called Twist and Lock, was made out of apple boxes and can be individually configured. This chair, called Barrel, started out as a steel barrel.
The inspiration comes from how metal changes form and re-stiffens. You can see that in the compressed metal. It's pretty strong and stable. That was the stage before the pressed chair.
Thaler's pressed chair will hit the market in a year's time and will cost around 300 euros. So what's up next?
I like bridges. Designing a bridge would be a little dream come true.
Well, a more common dream for many people is to live in a castle, and now that dream has come a little bit closer. A Dutch real estate agency has come up with an attractive house-sitting concept, which allows people to live in castles, monasteries and even churches for rents that rarely exceed 220 euros a month. Now, the company is aptly called Camelot, and they have many happy clients on both ends of the deal.
Majestic as it looks, it's quite a bargain. Live like a king for 210 euros a month. And then there's this former railway station. And this former airport in Britain. For a mere 220 euros a month, you can even move into this vacant castle in Ireland. This building on the outskirts of Amsterdam was erected for the Dike Warden of the Dutch capital. Today it's on the Register of Historical Monuments, and it's rented out for 180 euros a month. Donovan Parlberg has been living in the 350-year-old building for 1 year.
The most I like the old part of this house. It's very unique to live here. I think for a guy like me in such a big house, and yeah, it's great. I enjoy every day living here.
Donovan Parlberg is the live-in guardian. He's taking care of the property until the owners decide what they want to do with it. Until that happens, he can live here. The guardians generally only get to occupy a few rooms in the building, which are specified in the rental contract. And there are other rules as well.
I'm not allowed to smoke in the property or give parties for more than 10 people or something. So it also depends on the owner, because this property is very strict and because it's a monument and stuff.
The Camelot rental agency brokers apartments and houses to guardians. Their website has long lists of vacant properties, but there are no photos to make it harder for thieves to track down the buildings. Camelot was founded in 1993. Today it has 15 offices in 6 European countries, including Germany. They've got over 5,000 properties on offer, including office buildings, schools, churches, monasteries and castles.
The guardian is on the spot in the building at all times. So the owner might live far away or might have a big portfolio and is not able to visit them all. Well, we take that away from him. So we secure the building by just being there. If it's dark and the light burns, someone with a bad thing in mind will pass the building because he said, oh, there is someone in there.
The staff pay regular visits to the guardians. This former publishing house is in Amsterdam's city centre. Rent here is 180 euros a month. Right now, the 3,500 square metre building is occupied by 5 live-in guardians. The Camelot staff check that the building is clean and tidy. The water and utility bills are paid by the owner, not the guardian. But cheap rent does come at a price. The guardians can be asked to leave with just 4 weeks' notice. Still, over 50,000 people have already signed up as guardians in the Netherlands alone.
It's in the center of Amsterdam. It's in a very nice neighborhood. And the rent of this room is so cheap.
It's hard to adjust because when I first moved here, I was like, okay, maybe I'll be lucky and we can stay here for like half a year or something. So I left some of my stuff at my parents' place.
Meanwhile, she's starting to settle in. As long as there's no buyer for the building, the Guardians can keep living here. But they are well aware that all good things must come to an end.
Well, I couldn't have put that more aptly myself. This show, too, must come to an end. So from all of us here in Berlin, all the best. Until next time, and thanks for watching. Ciao.